Good evening, everyone. Today we are going to look at the next two scenes from Act 5, Scene 4 and Scene 5. These are very small scenes, so we are going to club them together and we are going to read through both of these scenes. So, just in the previous scene, in Scene 3, we mainly saw how Macbeth was preparing for war. So we saw Macbeth's conversation with his attendant called, interestingly called Satan, whose name is a very interesting pun. And we also saw how Macbeth is determined to fight. We saw him talking to the doctor about Lady Macbeth's condition. And the doctor basically tells him that this is not a disease for a doctor, but rather it is a disease where the patient must treat herself. So then he asks the doctor whether the doctor can do something about Scotland. Can he invent some sort of medicine which is able to, cast away these English soldiers from Scotland and make the country healed? But again, the doctor says, this is not something that medicine can do. But finally, Macbeth says, I'm going to continue fighting because I don't have to be afraid at all until the forest at Burnham comes to the castle at Dunsinane. Or the other prophecy is also something which gives him a lot of confidence. He says, I will not be defeated by anybody who is born from a woman. So now we come to scene 4, which takes place in Burnham Wood. So this is a place where Malcolm and the English soldiers, along with those Scottish thanes, they have all reached this place. And Malcolm takes an important or interesting decision here. So that is why this scene is interesting. So let us just quickly read this scene. Scene 4 takes place in the countryside near Burnham Wood. You have drums and colors. Colors indicate the colored flags that the soldiers are carrying, because these are soldiers. They belong to an army, so they are carrying these flags. So enter Malcolm. Seward, Seward is the eminent general from England, and along with him you also have young Seward, who is Seward's son. Then you have Macduff, Mensheth, Caithness, Angus, Lennox, Ross, and soldiers. They are all marching into the stage. So Malcolm is the first to speak in the scene. He says, "Cousins, I hope the days are near at hand that Chambers will be safe." Okay, so he says, I hope that soon we will reach a condition where our chambers, our houses, especially our bed chambers, will be safe. Safe from what? Safe from the activities of a tyrant like Macbeth. And Mensheth replies, we doubt it nothing. We don't have any doubt about it. You are going to save us all from this evil, Macbeth. Seward is speaking. Seward is looking at the forest and he says, what wood is this before us? What is the name of this forest? And Mensheth answers, the wood of Burnham. And now Malcolm makes an important decision. So he says, let every soldier hew him down a bough and bear it before him. Thereby shall we shadow the numbers of our host and make discovery err in report of us. So basically what he's saying is, every soldier should cut down a branch of a tree and hold it above his head. So it can act as a camouflage, right? It can act as some sort of a hiding, which will prevent the enemy from knowing how many number of soldiers are there in their army. Okay, and therefore Macbeth's spies, people who are looking out for Macbeth from the castle, they will not be able to identify how many soldiers are there. The soldiers agree, it shall be done. Okay. So this decision is important because this is going to break one of the conditions of the prophecy that the witches have made. Now, they said that Macbeth will not be defeated until Burnham Forest comes to Dunsinane. Now, when these 10,000 soldiers carry branches above their head, uh, it is going to look as if the entire forest of Burnham is moving towards Dunsinane Castle. So Macbeth's soldiers are going to be looking out from their castle, and what they will see is this entire forest coming towards them. So that is going to break the first promise that the witches have given them, right? That Macbeth is not going to be defeated. Okay. So Seward says, "We learn no other but the confident tyrant keeps still in Dunsinane and will endure our setting down before it." So Seward is telling us that Macbeth is not going to surrender. He is going to stay in his castle. He will endure. He will try to, stay in his castle and wait till the English forces are exhausted, and only then will he attack. Okay. And Malcolm agrees with this observation. He says, "It is his main hope, for where there is advantage to be given, both more and less have given him the revolt, and none serve with him but constrained things whose hearts are absent too." So Malcolm says, there is no advantage for him to come out and fight, right? All the people who had pledged obedience to him, all the people who had promised to fight with him, they have all left. And the people who are left with him, they are only people who fight because they don't have any choice. They are constrained things. Constrained things means people who have no other choice. They have been forced to fight for Macbeth. And their hearts are absent too. They don't have any love towards Macbeth. They are just fighting because they don't have any choice. Macbeth says, "Let our just censures attend the true event, and put we on industrious soldiership." So he says, let our just censures means punishments, right? So Macbeth is saying that we have justice on our side, and we are bringing punishments for this tyrant Macbeth. Okay, so these punishments will be accompanying the main event of the war. Okay, and for that, in order to win this war, we need to be prepared. We need to be good soldiers, right? We need to do hard work in our in our job as soldiers. Okay, now Seward is the last one to speak in this very small scene. Seward says, "The time approaches that will with due decision make us know what we shall say we have and what we owe. Thoughts speculative their unsure hopes relate, but certain issue strokes must arbitrate, towards which advance the war." So basically he is saying, now is the time when all the decisions that we have made will finally let us know what we will get, or whether we will be defeated, and whether we will have to pay everything to somebody else, what we owe. So what we owe means, if they are defeated, then even their lives will be taken away by Macbeth, right? They will have to pay even their lives to this tyrant. So finally that time of decision, the time of war is going to come. So the thoughts of speculation means thinking about what is going to happen, right? Their hopes and fears. So all their hopes and fears are there in their minds, but certain questions must be arbitrated means settled. Certain questions need to be settled by strokes. Strokes means the blows of war. When you take your sword and hit someone, right, kill someone, those are strokes, right? You take the sword and strike your enemy. So those strokes will finally decide what is going to happen in this war. Okay. And that is why they are advancing towards the war. And with that, they march away from the stage. So this is Act 5, Scene 4. And now we will quickly move on to the next scene, where we are again changing sides, and we are going to Macbeth's castle to see what is happening at that side. Okay. So in Scene 5, we are back at Macbeth's castle, Dunsinane. We are inside the castle, within the castle. Enter Macbeth, Satan, and soldiers with drum and colors. So just like the other army, Macbeth's army is also decorated with drums and flags. Right? And Macbeth is giving orders. Right? Macbeth is crying out. He says, "Hang out our banners on the outward walls. The cry is still, they come. Our castle's strength will laugh a siege to scorn. Here let them lie, till famine and ague eat them up." So he says, hang out our banners means hoist our flag, right? Let all of our flags be hoisted on the walls of the castle. But still, they can hear the cry of the soldiers. They come, the enemy is coming. But Macbeth is saying, our castle is very strong, right? And this strength will be enough to laugh at their siege. So even if they completely surround our castle, even if they prevent us from leaving the castle, we will be safe inside, because they will be outside and they won't have any food to eat, and gradually the famine, the absence of food will kill them off, or they will die because of the ague. Ague means fever, right? So when people are camped outside for long periods of time, they will be exposed to the cold weather, and various diseases will break out in the camp, and this will cause them to die off. So that is what Macbeth is saying. Were they not forced with those that should be ours, we might have met them dareful, beard to beard, and beat them backward home. So he says, I wish at least some of the Scottish thanes had been loyal to me, Macbeth, right? But those soldiers, those thanes, they deserted us. They went and joined with them. If they had been with us, we could have directly attacked the English forces, and we could have met them on the battlefield, beard to beard, face to face. We could have, fought. But now Macbeth has decided it is better to stay inside the castle. Alright, so at that time, we hear the cry of women coming from within the castle. So something bad has happened in the castle, and we hear the sound of crying. What is that noise? Macbeth says. So Satan comes. Satan says, it is the cry of women, my good lord. And then he goes out, exit. And now we have a small soliloquy by Macbeth. He says, I have almost forgot the taste of fears. The time has been, my senses would have cooled to hear a night shriek, and my fell of hair would at a dismal treatise rouse and stir as life were in it. I have supped full with horrors. Direness familiar to my slaughterous thoughts cannot once start me. So he says, even though I have heard this fearful scream coming from inside the castle, I don't feel much fear. So because I have experienced so many horrific events in my life, it seems I have become, immune to fear. I don't feel any fear even if I hear, this night shriek, this shriek of women in the night time. Okay. So during the earlier time, when my senses were much more, unused to these kind of events, my hair would have started, my hair would have stood up if I heard such a shriek during the night. Okay. My hair would have been like life were in it, just like my hair would have been like it was alive, like snakes. It would have stood up. But now, because I have supped full with horrors, I now sup with horrors. Remember the dinner, the banquet that Macbeth, took part in. So in that banquet, he came face to face with a ghost, right? So because he was able to survive all those events, now he is not at all afraid, right? All right. So now Satan comes back, and Macbeth asks him, wherefore was that cry? What was that cry all about? And Satan, he gives the answer. The queen, my lord, is dead. Okay. So we don't know exactly what has happened. Probably Lady Macbeth might have committed suicide, right? So earlier we know that her mental state was completely unstable, right? She was waking up during the night. She was, hallucinating, and she was still consumed by the guilt of taking part in Duncan's murder. So all of these things may have gradually sort of driven her over the edge. So now she is dead. She has committed suicide. And Macbeth's reaction to this is an important part of this scene. We have a very important, speech by Macbeth after he hears about the death of his wife. So this is what he says. She should have died hereafter. What does that mean? It means she was not supposed to die here. She was very young, right? She should have died in the future, at some time in the future, when all these troubles were solved and when they were safe. That is the time when she should have died. There would have been time for such a word. Okay, so he's thinking about death. His wife's death, and he says there would have been a time in the future for the death of his wife, not now. This is not the correct time for her to die. And then he says, this is the important part: tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. So this is an important speech by Macbeth. So he's talking about basically the passage of time, the march of time. Okay. So time is unstoppable, right? Day after day it comes and goes, right? So that is what he says in the beginning. Each day, each tomorrow, it comes and goes without any end, and it is all leading us forward to where? To our deaths, right? So every day is bringing us closer and closer to the day of our death, right? So every day will move on like this until the last syllable of recorded time. So the last day, the last moment of our lives, that is the time that we can remember, we can record in our brains, right? So till that time, the days will go on marching without any end. So all these yesterdays, all these days that we have spent, they have all lighted fools the way to dusty death. So these days are like candles. They are showing us the way towards what? The way towards our death, right? Death is dusty. Why is Shakespeare using dusty here? Because we came from dust, and in death we return to dust, right? From dust to dust, right? That is how in Christianity life is described, right? Life began. Man was made from the dust, from the clay, and ultimately man is destined to go back to the dust. Okay. And then he says, out, out, brief candle. So he's comparing his life to a small candle about to go out. So he says it is better to blow out this candle and end it. Out, out means go out. Let the flame go out. Let the flame be extinguished. And then he says, life's but a walking shadow. Okay. Life is nothing but a shadow, right? It doesn't have any meaning, right? We are all, made to live for such a long time on this, earth. But our lives are all determined by other factors, right? We don't have any other, we don't have choice. Just like a shadow, our shadow cannot move on its own, right? When we move our hand, the shadow also moves its hand. So Macbeth is imagining that life is like the life of a shadow, right? It has to move when the man commands it, or we are all controlled by external factors like witches and prophecies and fate and good luck and bad luck and good and evil. All these forces are there commanding us. So that is what he is talking about. And he makes one more comparison. He says, life is a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. So he says, life is like a poor player. A poor player means an inexperienced actor. Okay. So, a mediocre actor who comes onto the stage and then spends some time on the stage just, shouting his lines. So this is a comparison that Shakespeare is very familiar with, because he knows drama, he knows actors and how they perform on the stage. So here Macbeth is, through Macbeth, it is actually Shakespeare himself who is making this comparison, that our life is like the life of a very poor, mediocre actor who just spends 1 hour on the stage and then goes away from the scene, never to be heard again. Right? So finally he says, life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. So it is like a story which is related by a madman, an idiot. Okay. So mad people may, shout and cry and make, loud noises, but none of what they say, nothing that they say has any meaning, right? It doesn't have any signification, right? No significance. So that is what life is. Basically, it is meaningless. So at this time, a messenger comes to Macbeth. And Macbeth speaks to him. Thou comest to use thy tongue, thy story quickly. So I know that you are here to tell me something. Quickly use your tongue and tell me what is the news that you want to tell me. And the messenger says, Gracious my lord, I should report that which I saw. I say I saw, but know not how to do it. So the messenger is very afraid. So he says, I don't know how to tell you what I want to tell you. Right? But I know that I should tell it to you, but I don't know how to tell you this news. Macbeth says, well, say, sir. Okay, just tell me what you want to say. And this is the message that he says. As I did stand my watch upon the hill, I looked toward Burnham. So I was standing at the top of the castle, watching for enemies, and I looked toward the forest at Burnham. And anon, and immediately, methought, the wood began to move. I thought the forest was moving. Immediately Macbeth is, he's shocked. He says, you are a liar and a slave. You are lying. How can the forest move? But the messenger is continuing to say, let me endure your wrath if it be not so. Okay, you can be angry at me if what I am saying is not true. If I am lying, you can scold me. You can be angry with me. Within this 3 mile, may you see it coming. I say a moving grove. Okay. So this, you can just look from the castle and you can see it within 3 miles from the castle. An entire moving forest. That is what is coming towards us. And Macbeth says, if thou speakest false, upon the next tree shall thou hang alive, till famine cling thee. Okay. So if you are saying, if you are saying a falsehood to me, if you are lying to me, I will hang you alive from the next tree. Okay. Until famine cling thee, until you die of hunger, right? Starvation. If thy speech be sooth, I care not if thou dost for me as much. Okay. But instead, if you are telling the truth, then you can hang me and I will not care. You hang me from the nearest tree and I will stay there without any care. I don't care what happens. I pull in resolution and begin to doubt the equivocation of the fiend that lies like truth. So now he says, my confidence is lessening. My resolution means the decision making ability, right? The decision to carry on in some task. So that is now lessening. Okay. And I am beginning to doubt the equivocation of the fiend. Fiend is the devil who lies like truth. The devil is able to tell lies just like truth. And that is what has happened to Macbeth when he listened to the witches. So now Macbeth is saying, I don't believe the equivocation of this devil. Equivocation is a word that we have already discussed when we talked about the porter in the porter scene. Equivocation is a form of cheating where you turn a lie into a truth, right? You are telling a lie, but you tell it in such a way that it appears as if it is a truth. So that is exactly what the witches have done to Macbeth, right? They have told him he is not going to be defeated until Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane. So he is remembering that. He says, fear not till Birnam Wood do come to Dunsinane, and now a wood comes towards Dunsinane. See, this is what the fiends, the devils have done to Macbeth. Arm, and out. So he says, now there's no use staying inside the castle. Put on your armor and take your swords. Take your armaments. Armaments means weapons. So take your weapons, put on your armor, and let us go out into the battlefield and let us fight. Okay. If this which he avouches does appear, there is no flying hence nor tarrying here. Okay. So if what the messenger said is true, if the forest is coming to Dunsinane, then there is no hope in trying to wait inside the castle and trying to see whether Malcolm's soldiers are all dying of fever or starvation. There is no use for that. So it is better to go out into the battlefield and fight them directly head on. Okay. And now we come to the final lines of this scene. I begin to be weary of the sun. Okay. So Macbeth is now expressing his his tiredness. He's exhausted, right? After all these ups and downs of fortune, right? From the moment that the witches first saw him in that heath, his life has been like a roller coaster ride. He's winning things, now he's losing things. Again, he's trying to win more things by killing more people, and now finally he's losing again. So it has been a very tiring process, exhausting process. So he says, I am tired of the day, the sun. Aweary means tired. Gin means I begin. I am starting to be afraid or tired of the sun, and wish the estate of the world were now undone. So he says, I wish that this entire world was now destroyed, right? Because he's just he doesn't care anymore. Okay. Ring the alarm bell, blow wind, come rack, at least we'll die with harness on our back. So he says, let the alarms ring, even if wind blows and even if the ship is wrecked, right? Even if we are going to face a very fierce storm. He's comparing Malcolm's forces to a strong storm that is about to attack them. So even if that happens, at least we have one advantage. We will die with harness on our back, which means we will be dying wearing our armor, right? We'll be dying as soldiers on the battlefield. So that is the one honor that is left to him, the honor of a soldier who is permitted to die on the battlefield fighting his enemies. Now that is a sign of bravery. So this is a final hope that Macbeth is praying for, that he is able to die as a brave soldier. And with that, he exits, all the characters exit the scene, and that is the end of scene 5 of Act 5. Okay. So we'll stop this video here, and we'll discuss the rest of the scenes in the next class. Okay.